Hey guys, Jordan from Outdoor Inc. here. Today we're going to go through the biggest bass producing bait that I have for the whole season, and that's the bass jig. I'm going to go through everything from my rod, my reels, my line, what types of jigs to use in certain situations. I'm going to break it all down for you here. There's 4 types of jigs that I use. Today I'm going to show you 3. They are the grass jig, the football head jig, and of course the structure head jig. I'm going to break them all down for you today. When it comes to fishing bass jigs, there's so many brands, there's so many colors, there's so many types, and it can be a little intimidating. And then you have to add trailers into that also. So it can be very effective if you can put the right things together. You can be very successful on big fish with a bass jig. Alright guys, so again there's 4 types of jigs that I use. The swim jig, which is a whole nother video, and then I'm going to start with these 3, which is the football head, the structure head, and the grass head jig. I'm going to break them all down, what's perfect situations for them and what's not so perfect. Each of them have a time and a place. And if you can hit it right on the head, you're going to be very successful using certain jigs in certain situations. So I'll start with the football head jig here. The football head is a staple among bass fishermen for being a big fish producer. This just happens to be a 1 ounce. It's a very large bait. You'd use a larger 1 ounce for deeper water situation, or if you were in a river with current. But the football head is perfect for a gravel bottom, a sand bottom, and then light structure, light wood, light grass, stuff like that where it's not real thick, because the football head will get snagged, or not, I should say, come through so easily through that cover. So if you look at how the football head jig sits up like that, perfect imitation of a craw. If you put a craw trailer on there, it'll look very, very nice on the back and imitate a crayfish perfectly. Smallmouth and largemouth can't get over that look. When it sits up like this, very effective just casting a long cast, especially in like clear water, and having this bait sit up and you just drag it along, just creeping it along the bottom. You'll catch a lot of fish doing that, and of course, doing your hop, hopping it back and stuff like that. So awesome bait, very effective in gravel, small rock situations, stuff like that, in sparse cover. So awesome bait, very effective, and a very big fish producer. Next one is the structure head jig, and the structure head jig really got on foot as being just all it is a thinner football head. That's basically all it is. So when you get that thick wood or thick cover, it comes through so easily, and it doesn't get snagged up in like shale rock or a big rock reef or nothing. So it's very nice. It still sits up decent. It's not as much as a football head, but it still sits up a good degree. And of course, all the jigs have a good weed guard. Again, crayfish trailer on here is hard to beat in thick wood, thick rock, or even sparse weed or grass. So very effective. Same thing, every jig that I have found, when you throw it in a certain cover that it's supposed to, it's a big fish producer. So the last one is the grass head jig. This one I don't use very much. In Wisconsin we don't have a lot of lakes that have real thick grass. Most of it's sparse cover or general weeds. That's a structure head is perfect for going through, and it's a lot nicer with that structure head. You can hit different targets and not have to use different baits. The grass jig pretty much it has a decent angle, just like the structure head, but it's very thin. If you can see, it's very thin. So when you get that real thick weeds or real thick grass, it'll come right through the cover real easy. Nice heavy weed guard on there. This can look like imitate a crayfish or a bluegill or any type of bait fish, just hopping off the bottom or dragging it through the cover. And a lot of times a grass jig is the only thing you can get through that real thick cover, other than maybe burning a spinnerbait, which they might not want. If they want a real slow presentation, sometimes a grass jig is your perfect presentation for lethargic largemouth or smallmouth in that thick cover. So all three jigs, very important. If you can use each jig at the right time, you can be very effective on some very big fish. Alright guys, I'm going to go through jigs and colors and brands quick. There's a lot to go through when you're looking at a jig. It can be very overwhelming if you go on a site like Tackle Warehouse. It's going to be overwhelming with the amount of brands and colors and stuff like that. So I'm just going to break a couple down for you. This is just a regular grass jig. You can find almost any brand makes one. And then as far as colors with the grass jig, just basic. I like to keep all my jig colors you can see here. Black and blue is good, black's good, brown as a crayfish imitation is awesome, and green as a crayfish imitation and a bait fish or bluegill or perch imitation works very well. Simple stupid is all I like to call it, but very effective. So these are just two grass jigs. They vary in size, anywhere from ½ ounce to 1 ounce. Depending on depth and cover. Here are two structure head jigs that I use. This one is a Terminator brand. Works very effective. I love this jig. But basically they all work. Any structure head jig you tie on will work. And then this just happens to be a Denny Brower structure jig from Strike King. Very nice jig. Works very well. Same thing as a Terminator. Love the jig. It's an awesome baits for various types of cover. And of course we got our football heads. You know, I believe these are both Terminators. Both of them are, but very effective. This is it's a ½ ounce, and we got a 3/4 ounce. So a lot of different sizes, a lot of different shapes, and a lot of different colors. Just keep it basic. That's why I like to use these three types of jigs, and then just keep it basic with colors. Have a couple of each, and tie them on and try them, and just see what you like. Alright guys, the next big thing I want to go over is trailers for your jig. And there's so many types of trailers. I like to keep it very simple again, where I use a crayfish style, and then a actual crayfish imitation bait, and then a simple chunk. Those are the three types of trailers I use, and those work the best for me. So I'll start on the bottom right here. This is a Berkeley Chigger Craw. Very awesome bait. The action is unbelievable, and makes that big profile perfect for big fish. And same thing with the colors. Just match your trailer up with your jig. That's simple. This happens to be a brown trailer with some green flake. Awesome on a brown or green jig. You know, that easy. This here is a Berkeley Habit Craw Fatty. Just a simple green watermelon color. Put it on a green jig. It's that simple. And then as we move up here, this is some crayfish imitations. This is a Havoc. You know, it's a bigger bait, but it's still awesome behind a jig. You know, and then there's the this is a Yum, a real small trailer, but works very effective for smallmouth when you want a smaller presentation. So just that small crayfish imitation might be everything you need for a big smallmouth to bite. And then as you move up here, you got chunks. Chunks are very easy to use. You can either thread it on or nose hook it right on the jig, depending on the presentation size. You know, this is a giant chunk, I think it's called, by Zoom. This is a Zoom chunk, and then this is a Big Bite Baits chunk. Any chunk you can find, thread it on and cast it out, and you'll be effective if you use this whole package correctly. Alright guys, next thing I want to go through is the rod, reel, and lines combination I like to use for jig fishing. So the first one I'm going to show you here is for clear water, and it's just a 7-foot medium heavy bait casting rod with just a simple bait casting reel, whatever you prefer. This just happens to be a Quantum EXO 6-3-1 awesome reel. But this is spooled up with 15 pound 100% fluorocarbon. When you get a real clear lake, you're going to want to make a long cast and have that no stretch line, but also invisible. And fluorocarbon is absolute perfect for that. I love this fluorocarbon because in clear lakes you still get thick cover sometimes, so you can cast it in a big patch of weeds or anything like that, and you can still get them out. Very awesome rod reel setup, but that fluorocarbon, again, key in clear water. Now when the water gets a little dirty, I would say pretty dark stain to mud, I switch to my braid. And this is a 7-foot heavy rod with the same 6:3 to 1 gear ratio bait caster, whatever you prefer brand, doesn't matter. But I spool this up with 50-pound spider wire braid, and that way I have the strength to pull a big fish out of tight cover. When you have muddy water condition or dark water condition, that fish will hold tight to a piece of cover. It can trap their food easier. So this way you can pitch this jig around a piece of wood or around big rocks in muddy water, and it's a lot easier to get them out of that cover sometimes. But the biggest thing is when they bite this bait, you can feel it, as I said before, in your shoes. You know, when they bite it, you know, you reel up and crank on them. And then of course, awesome for fighting the fish. You got 50-pound braid, you just reel them right in the boat. So awesome setup. Again, braid, muddy water, fluorocarbon, clear water. Use these two rod and reel combinations when you're fishing a jig, and you'll have great success. Alright guys, that's all I have for jig fishing this week. I hope you use these tools and be successful. So thanks for stopping by. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. So thank you from Outdoor Inc.